This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Hey there folks, and welcome you all to this Saturday rambling, eh? Normally it happens on a Friday, every now and then it happens on a Saturday, but one thing remains certain, people. We will always celebrate with a flagon of your finest beer, eh? Cheers to you all on this Saturday evening. That's the last sip I'll have probably until the end of this. So I am, people, I am. Let us start with this, actually, talking of flagons, which my dear friend Robert from the subscribers list pointed out last week, that I do in fact always have a little flagon of beer next to me when I do these ramblings. The definition of a flagon is this, people. A flagon is a large leather, metal, glass or ceramic vessel used to drink, whether this is water, ale or another liquid. Let me say this and let me say no more. If you are referring to your vessel as a flagon and you've got water in it, just get out. I won't be having flagons of water mentioned anywhere. It's either a flagon of beer or it's a glass of water. So there you are, you know what the definition of a flagon is now. That was exciting, wasn't it, eh? You learn something new every day, people. I am, at the moment, because, people, you know from a couple of weeks ago, I think, maybe 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, I did a vlog on, I have pre-ordered my Xbox One X, and it will be arriving on Tuesday, which is the official launch day of it, unless something really, you know, sometimes these things happen, as did with Dragon's Dogma, things turn up early, but I suspect with something like the Xbox One X that won't happen. It would be lovely if it did, but I doubt it. Lots of people with YouTube channels much larger than mine have already received theirs, and they were free. You know, the Xbox just sends them to them and says, tell everyone how wonderful our machine is. So maybe one day, people, you know, maybe one day I'll be thrown Xbox One X's and Porsches and expensive watches, but in the meantime, we'll carry on doing what we're doing, eh? So at the moment, today, after doing, you know, the rock and roll stuff, like going and getting my weekly shopping and stuff like that, I have sorted out, I had 2 external hard drives, one of which is a 1 terabyte, one of which is a 500 megabyte, and I managed to squeeze all the little backups that I had onto the 500 megabyte one, and the 1 terabyte one is now going to be used for the, well, initially I thought, well, I'll just use it to get all the stuff off the Xbox and then back onto the Xbox One X, but most of the stuff I have on the Xbox One is actually Xbox backward compatibility games, and I've only got a couple of, I think, Quantum Break and one other, State of Decay, I think, still on there, which I haven't touched pretty much since the first, since they came out, both of them, and I thought I decided to wait until something happened with Xbox where I was happier with the quality of gaming I was getting. I was disappointed that Quantum Break was at 720p. I was, you know, disappointed with State of Decay that it wasn't a lot smoother than it could have been given the extra power that was there, but it was obviously just a remaster more than it was anything else. So, State of Decay, I don't know. I've seen the footage for State of Decay 2, and it looks much of a muchness about multiplayer, so I'm not sure that's going to be the game I want it to be. But anyway, I digress, as I do. So, yeah, so most of the stuff, so my decision is now that I formatted it. You have to format it anyway to use it with the Xbox. So I thought, well, I'll just format it and I will keep that 1 terabyte drive specifically for all of the Xbox One back compat stuff that I install, and all of the standard stuff on the new Xbox will have, in the internal drive will have all of the new gen type stuff. So that's the plan at the moment. So at the moment, while I'm recording this, behind the camera where the TV and everything is, I'm currently moving all of the files from the internal drive to the external drive. So that's working a treat. And I have to say that Microsoft have made this an absolute joy, because it is so simple. Like, you've got 2 things to do effectively. One is backup and transfer your settings and everything else from the actual Xbox itself. And then the second thing is to get all of your games onto the device that you're then going to plug into the new one. Now, you can do this in a couple of ways, actually. You can do it by either, copying all your stuff or moving all your stuff to an external hard drive, or you can wait for your Xbox X1 to arrive and do it via your home network. So you can do it either way, but I think that their preferred way is to do it with the USB drive. And the bonus of that is I don't have to. I've only got, as I say, I've only got 2 games then on that drive actually that I'm going to move back to the Xbox One X anyway, because only 2 of them are new gen. The rest of them are back compats, and I'm going to leave them there. Other people would just put most of their stuff on an external, and use the internal one for a few. I don't know, maybe the most played ones or something. I don't know what the speed differential is. A lot of that's going to depend on the drive you've bought, I assume, because all hard drives work at, well, not all, you can buy a hard drive that works at one speed or one that, so it depends on which one you buy as to what sort of speed you're going to get from that sense. How much of a delay is caused because you're going through a cable to the machine rather than being internal, I don't know. It does specify that you've got to be USB 3, which mine is, so maybe that means there's no lag whatsoever anyway, and it's just as fast, but I haven't heard anyone mention that there's any problem with using external, much like there isn't with the PlayStation 4 either. The other great feature they've put in is that, I mean, I have to take my hat off to them. They have gone all out to make sure that all of their home titles, the ones that are written by their own home studios, or Microsoft specific studios, like I think some of them only write for Microsoft, but they're not actually owned by Microsoft, like Quantum Break and such, like Remedy. But what they have done is they've ensured that all of those are doing something to ensure the gameplay is better. Now, the only exception to that rule I've heard of is Rise Son of Rome, which I actually loved as a game. I thought it was great fun and a real showpiece to what the Xbox One did in the first place, but it was only 900p, and but it still looked great, but even having watched a Digital Foundry video on it, they haven't patched that one, but they have said that it comes with performance boosts anyway, because they've said that about the Xbox One X, even if it's a bit like with the PlayStation 4 Pro, if you turn the boost mode on, it will use whatever power it's got to try and play the game a bit smoother, try and load things a bit quicker and all this sort of stuff. So, but you don't have to toggle that on and off on the Xbox One X. It's just, it's just there. It'll just use whatever power it's got to do a better job of it. So with all of those games, the great thing they've done, because all of these studios are making sure, most of them, I say 95% of them, are making sure they've got a patch of some description, either coming for day one or coming not long after, to really get the best out of the Xbox One X hardware, whether it be 4K, whether it be 60 frames per second if they can manage it, which is doubtful, but or a solid 30, or give you options to toggle between the two. They've actually got a little tick box in the settings area where you can say tick it to download off. Even if it's not on, it will download any updates that come that are patch updates for the games you've got installed, which is great, which means you don't even have to worry about on launch day. It should just be there. So for the ones that are already done, and for the ones that aren't done, when I put my Xbox One X in, put the hard drive in it, then boot it up, all of those settings that I've done will be on the Xbox One as well. So it will download them after, once I'm on with it with the Xbox One X, and it'll just do it. You know what I'm saying, people? It's fantastic. It's fantastic. They've really thought it through. I mean, I think with the PlayStation 4 Pro, much as I love it, and it really does deliver in a lot of places and does give you the extra power, and you do feel like you're getting a lot more buck for your dollar sort of thing. It did feel a little bit like they kind of launched it with not an awful lot to show off. There wasn't a huge amount of people that had already patched the games. There wasn't an awful lot of, so it did take time for it to get there, and the developers are now covering it with every release they bring, so it's fantastic. But at the time they released the PlayStation 4 Pro, there wasn't a huge amount to actually... And plus, they didn't actually have boost mode for the launch of the Pro either. So it was a while after the Pro came out that boost mode did. So Microsoft, to be fair, Microsoft have been talking about this console for a long time now, so they've had a lot of time to, to get their shiz together, as it were. So So they've done a really good job with it. Obviously, that's what they were pushing at the Paris Game Week, which is actually what this vlog is about. But I wanted to start with the fact that I was prepping up for the Xbox One X. To finish off the fact of talking about the Xbox One X, I have considered... Now, there's already a shed ton of people doing Xbox One X unboxings, so I don't think it's something that I need to be showing off as such and doing a video on it. I did do it for the PlayStation 4 Pro, and it was a fairly popular video. If you really fancy me showing you what's in it, then by all means tell me in the comments below if you want to see it. What I might do is record it and just sort of have it in the background while I talk about stuff next week, when I do my vlog next week. So the video is just me sort of showing you the bits that were in the box, but not actually doing a full unboxing, just sort of, you know, a few smooth shots of everything that I took out before I put it together, or something like that maybe. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see me do something, if you're interested in seeing me do it as opposed to anyone else. But there's a gazillion people already that have been, as I say, have been sent these things by Microsoft free of charge. You know, here I have one, because they've got, like, you know, gazillions of subscribers. So, you know, but if it's something you want to see me do, then just let me know. So moving swiftly on, the real reason for this vlog is to chat about what we saw from Paris Game Week this week when it came to PS4, well, PlayStation, but PS4 and PS4 Pro. And we had, well, there was no new reveals. There was one noticeable exception from what they talked about. Now, here's the thing, actually. They've changed the format of how they're doing these things now, and I'm hoping it's something they stick with, because what used to happen was they used to come on stage, like, person after person after person, showing off stuff that people were only semi-interested in, and then at the end, for about 3/4 of an hour, you'd get all the big stuff, all the stuff that really interested in. So what they've seemed to be doing now is they have this sort of panel of people that just talk about the little things, the little indie games, the little updates that are coming, all this sort of stuff, which is what they did again this time. And then they had a presentation show, which was about an hour long. The main man comes on and he talks about how great PlayStation is and look at all these exclusives that are coming in. It was all, pretty much all, AAA title stuff. And it was just... I mean, honest to God, like, I am excited about the Xbox One X, and mainly it's because I haven't taken full advantage of all the exclusives that Microsoft already have. So I'm really looking forward to covering that back catalogue with the 4K, with the better frame rate, you know, all that sort of stuff. So I am excited for it. But looking forward, at the moment, you cannot beat this lineup that PS4 have got coming. It's just insane. Like, I mean, you know, they're not going to be far away, any of them. We do have an idea of at least one of them when that's coming out. But without further ado, let's crack on with it. The one thing that wasn't there was why am I having a massive mind blank on it now? Days Gone. Well, they're not zombies, but zombie-like game, Days Gone, which just looks absolutely amazing. But I suspect it's been held back for a reason. We've seen footage of it and just about everything recently that they've done show-wise. Wasn't there this time. Possibly they've held it back for PSX, which is at the beginning of December, and they'll have some sort of announcement then. Possibly it's because it's been pushed back date-wise. They're not quite ready with it yet. For whatever reason, it didn't matter, because they've got 5 more stunners which we've got to look forward to, including Sucker Punch's new game, these are the people that right at the beginning of the life cycle of PlayStation, these were the people that did the infamous, well, they're the people that did all the Infamous games, but Infamous Second Son was the launch title, I think, if I remember rightly, or I'm pretty sure it was a launch title. You had Killzone, Shadowfall, and Infamous Second Son. I'm pretty sure I had those at launch. So these are the people that did the Infamous games, and everybody's been wondering for ages what the hell have they been up to for the last, 3-4 years, because we haven't heard from them since Infamous Second Son. Oh, well, there was Second Son, and then there was Last Light or something like that. There was a sort of DLC for it. Anyway, so the only thing that I didn't see was Days Gone that I've seen them pushing, and Sucker Punch was the one that I think that was sort of pushed to one side in order to bring in this one. So there's just so much to look forward to. So let's crack into the first one. This is a game that I'm so looking forward to. I mean, the only superhero game that we've had that's been absolutely awesome, really, for any length of time, has been the Batman games. And they are absolutely brilliant. The first one, second one, third one, all brilliant. Apart from the one that Rocksteady didn't do. All of it. I mean, the one that Rocksteady didn't do, I've not even played it because I saw some footage of it, and even when they were showing it off, it was tearing all over the screen. And I mean, it didn't look like a bad game as such. And it was Troy Baker was doing the Joker instead of Mark Hamill, which was, you know. I mean, I like Troy Baker, don't get me wrong, but it's like Mark Hamill's just a legend when it comes to doing the Joker. But, you know, he didn't want to do that particular game, so that's fine. And the whole thing just felt a little bit like a cash cow, really, because they needed to sort of spin out a Batman game. But Rocksteady didn't want to, didn't want to be doing it. So I never ever played it, and but the first Arkham Asylum and Arkham City and Arkham Knight, all just stunning. Absolutely stunning. And talking of which, apparently, from what Digital Foundry have said, the Arkham Knight one looks absolutely gorgeous on the Xbox One X already, and that's without a patch yet. So they're hoping that maybe they'll come up with a patch for it. I love that game. I still haven't finished it. The amount of games I haven't finished is just ridiculous, people. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, Spider-Man, as it was called Spider-Man PS4, and we've seen the run-up to it up until now, it is just called Spider-Man, so far as I could make out. It's not called Spider-Man PS4, but they were sort of punting it as that up till now. Just comes up with Spider-Man. This particular clip, all of this stuff is going to be behind me, people, while I'm talking. The new clip, it kind of focuses on a lot of the action rather than a lot of the gameplay. The last one at E3 did start showing us some of the gameplay, and trust me, it looks as good as what you're seeing in this particular sort of show of action scenes. But these are massive cutscenes of action, but they're all in-game engine and everything. So, when you're fighting, and the fighting did look immensely similar to how the Batman system works. And it looked, I mean, this is a Spider-Man that is already uber. Like, you're not moving in as Peter Parker just coming out of school and all that sort of stuff. They'd said, like, and this is made, by the way, by Insomniac, who are the people that brought us Ratchet and Clank and all of these sorts of things. And they've been working on this for ages with the proper rights to Spider-Man through, there's no link in this whatsoever to the movies, to any other outside world. This is Sony own the rights to Spider-Man, and they've given Insomniac the rights to make this game for PS4 only. And that's what so this is a proper gaming studio that's making this game. Usually what happens with movie games nowadays is they end up with some really, downgrade company, because the film, there's so little money in it for a studio, because the people that own the rights to the movie or the book or whatever it is want so much themselves that it's like, well, it's not worthwhile. Rocksteady are kind of, I don't know how they managed. I mean, maybe it's because it was a comic book character or something, but you would expect if that was the case that we would have had more by now, superhero type stuff that was well worth talking about. But whatever Rocksteady did back in the day, they certainly didn't base it on any of the movie stuff that was going on. But they certainly hooked into somebody for saying, look, can we not? Because the first one, I mean, Rocksteady weren't massively massive when that first one came out, I don't think. So, we've been pretty lucky with the Batman games so far as we were able to get it from a studio that knew the hell what they were doing. I mean, if you look at things like, I mean, I don't know, if you look at PS2, there were so many movie games that were actually really good. And I don't know why that was. If you look at the Lord of the Rings games or the Matrix games, or, all of that stuff was amazingly really good fun, and it was done by EA, big studios. But now big studios just won't touch anything that's copyrighted with a bloody barge pole. It's like, it's too much money we've got to fork out in order to, what's our revenue back? Anyway, so the bonus with Spider-Man is that Sony already own it. So all they, they've given it, that they've basically said to us, they know in themselves they want a product that's going to be worthy of the Spider-Man franchise. So they've given it to someone who has been making games for, I mean, I realised they went away and they made that Xbox game that I'm now forgetting the name of, sort of adult platformer. It will come back to me. Sunset Overdrive. They went away and did that, and this is them now coming back and doing Spider-Man. And but this is because Sony have those rights. They can say, look, we own Spider-Man and we want you to make an awesome game, so go and do it. And I love that. I wish more people would do that have the rights to, because it's a no-brainer as far as I can see. Like, why would you give the rights, for someone to make a game out of your movie rights, book rights, to someone that is going to make a shit game? You're going to get zero revenue back from it. You might make a quick buck, but you're never going to get them to make a 2 or 3 or a 4 and make the sort of money that the Batman games have been making. So it's a no-brainer to me. Like, just make it worthwhile for the studio making the game, and you'll make, tenfold back because of what you're doing, which is obviously what PlayStation are doing. So very excited for this. Gameplay looks amazing. The cutscenes look amazing. The story looks fantastic. This particular clip that you've seen, or are still seeing behind me, depending on how long I've been going on, it's really setting up the story and showing you the big villain. And it starts off kind of like, everything's dead peaceful. He's just taken out the big bad. Peter Parker's thinking that maybe this is the time that he can actually stop being Spider-Man and start settling down and being just Peter Parker again. And then, boom, it all kicks off. So that's the sort of premise of it. But I like the fact we're going in as Uber Spider-Man, not having to start from scratch and have all this sort of origin story. So it's really cool. And you can tell that from the way he leaps off buildings, spins out the way of gunshots and bullets. And, it just looks brilliant. Looks fantastic. Looks like it plays fantastic. Made by a great studio. I mean, we can't be asking for more, can we? I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. Cannot wait for that. Next up, well, this is no particular order, by the way. This isn't in the order that they necessarily did it. I did jot them down, I think, in the order they were doing it, but it wasn't necessarily in that order. The new game that I talked about just before I started properly about the games coming out from Sucker Punch, who were the guys that brought us Infamous Second Son and the Infamous games before that. Well, they've come up with a new samurai game, which, well, it's certainly set in a samurai world, and you're playing as a samurai character. That sounded like a Madonna song at one point. So, yeah, I mean, again, it was a very cinematic type show-off. It was more showing the story than it was showing any gameplay. But it does look pretty stunning. It is a world that we've not been allowed to play in, and certainly not been allowed to play in an open world environment. And it has been confirmed that this is an open world game. So it looks like Sony's sort of home exclusives, outside of maybe The Last of Us, which is still a little bit open, they're going for a very open world sort of wander about with massive action and a good story theme and vibe, because that's what we seem to be getting from all of these exclusives. They're not particularly linear. Some of them aren't too open world. I don't think Spider-Man's that open world, but it'll be open so far as you can. Well, yeah. I think it'll be similar to Batman. I think you'll have the main story type stuff, and then you'll better scoot around the city and do what you want and do quests and help people. I think you'll have all that going on with a bit of luck. So yeah, I mean, they all seem to be following that theme. But this does seem to be a revenge kind of story with this samurai. You see in the clip this sort of, I mean, you won't hear what's happening in the clip because I talk over everything and mute the sound. But at some point you will see the guy, sort of chubbier guy, saying, sort of speaking to the samurai guy, and then it opens up into him, that you see him properly. And he's basically saying, bow down to me kind of thing. But the samurai's obviously, I think what's happened in the clip is he's sort of destroyed the village, destroyed the family, destroyed, so he's just on an all-out mission to get the guy. So nothing too original story-wise, but that's what you want, though, isn't it? You want the guy has a big baddie to get at the end of his massive journey, and in the midst of all of that, he's going to go around probably helping other villages that they're trying to destroy. And we can only assume, I know from the gameplay in Infamous, that they are particularly good at getting their battle mechanics right. They like a lot of fast moving, dodging, spinning around. They like a lot of, maybe he's got some sort of... If you look at a lot of those sorts of films from Japan or China, you get all those what they call wire work type action scenes where you're sort of flying through the trees. No idea. Maybe we'll get some of that. Maybe we'll get in with some sort of Oriental magics, that sort of thing. But nothing could really be told from the clip other than it looked bloody awesome. Story looks great. The world that we're going to be pushed into is a world that we've not really had I can't think of another one where we've got to play around in a world like that, other than Neo, I suppose. But it's not open world like that. It's sort of very sort of linear type paths to the most part. So yeah, very excited for that one as well. And they were sort of the last home studio that Sony had that we hadn't heard from. So we know what they're up to now. Onward. I'm going to finish with the game with the game that's my favourite out of all of this, but you probably already know what that is. So we also have Detroit Become Human, which they've been the more they show this game off, the more I'm getting interested in it. And it's surprising because this game is from the people that brought us Heavy Rain and Two Souls. What was it called? Beyond Two Souls. And these are decision-making games, effectively, but they've done them. I mean, these are the people that brought us Fahrenheit. Was it Fahrenheit? I'm sure it was called Fahrenheit. That was the first game they ever did, which was back on the PS2. I think you can buy it actually on the PSN store on the PlayStation 4, which I haven't done. I was looking at it the other day and it was dead cheap, and I thought, I wonder if I should play it, because it's supposed to be an amazing game. Obviously graphically very dated now, but it was their very first outing. But it just, every time I see more of this game, it just looks more and more interesting. And they're all decision-making games. It'll be much like Two Souls was and Heavy Rain was. It's like, you get a certain amount of time to make a decision, and you got to, make your choices. And they're final, you can't change them thereafter. And it's very like, you'll see people die, you'll see, I mean, the Heavy Rain one, there was actual, like, you had 4 main characters, and you could actually finish the game with 4 main characters, or you could finish it with 1. So, there's big decisions that you have to make, and you have to make them like that. And I have to say, looking at this clip, it does feel far more like Heavy Rain than Beyond Two Souls did. I love both of those games. But Heavy Rain just had a vibe about it, a very cool one, and dark one. And this seems to have that same vibe. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, I could be completely wrong, but looking at that clip, the guy who's playing the sort of abusive father, it looks like the same actor who played the character in Heavy Rain, but I could be wrong. It just, I felt looking at him, I thought, that looks very familiar. And he was fantastic. Great actor, that guy. Very, very good at the role as the sort of detective in the first one. But that whole scene was, you see it's basically about it's the same old, like robots, artificial intelligence becoming self-aware and, making right and wrong decisions. And that's basically what this whole game is all about. It's them becoming self-aware and becoming human, which is, hence the title. So you see the amount of the decisions that the robot, the woman, has to make. The one with the light on the side of her. Well, she's the only woman in the clip, people, but she's got a light on the side of her head. So, yeah, I get that the scenarios are really, really interesting. So it's good to see how that particular scenario was quite dark, whereas the other scenes I'd seen were kind of on a rooftop, but it looked a bit more, There's fireworks going off in the background. I thought there's somebody at my door there for a second, which is why I got a bit thrown. It's fireworks going off outside. So very excited about that. Quantic Dream has never let me down yet, and I'm really looking forward to that. Whether I get it on release day, not sure. Certainly with all of these other ones, I most definitely will. And so moving swiftly on, I'll tell you what, we'll get this one out of the way first, because it's not really a new game. Horizon Zero Dawn Frozen Wilds, which is coming out very soon, I think. Is that not a December thing? Pretty sure it is. I didn't write down when the release date was. But it's a massive DLC. It's a whole new area, a whole new lots of people to fight and all sorts. I haven't finished the main game yet. So I don't know what the outcome of the main game was, so I don't know really what... I'm trying not to dig too deeply into what this one's all about, having not finished the first one. It looks just the same. It looks fantastic, and maybe I'll get it at some point, but I'll have to finish the main one first. You know, I mean, but I'm not massive on DLC for games like that. I mean, I loved The Witcher and I played it to death, and I've actually bought it to play on the Xbox One X. I got it on the cheap. I got the Game of the Year edition with all the DLC and everything else because I want to see just how good it looks on the Xbox One X. There is a massive improvement in it. So, and I've also done the same with Dragon Age Inquisition. So but even having loved The Witcher 3, I bought the DLC and I've never played it. It's like, because there's nothing in me that's like, and I might do it at some point. I'll probably play it. I got it dead cheap though. It was on sale, I think. But there's something about DLC that never really excites me. It kind of never really ever satisfies me enough. You know, it's like, meh. It's the same with Dead Space, funnily enough. I got that. Even that's not an open world game, obviously, but I remember with Dead Space there was DLC for each of those, and it was, you know, I played through it simply to get the trophies and the G's. But so yeah, so it is coming. It does look good, and it'll be a great addition for people that love Horizon Zero Dawn. It will give you an excuse to play it again without any doubt. So yes, looking forward to that. Well, hopefully people are looking forward to that. I'm not looking forward to it at the minute, but maybe I will in the future once I get the main game done and dusted. So after that, we had a God of War. I was going to say something else there. It's God of War. Funnily enough, having prepped all this up and downloaded all the videos in advance, I've actually missed one. Whether or not I go and do it, I'll mention the game anyway, but I might not have the footage for it. So, yes, so we have God of War, and again, this is another game that it piqued my interest when I saw the very first clip of this, because I saw immediately that it wasn't like the other God of War games. The other God of War games, I tried it one night at my friend's, and it was like, that was mad for about 10 minutes, and it frustrated me because there was no panning. It was all just linear, sort of run up this big thing and run up that big thing and swish about and fight stuff. And I understand it, I get it. I didn't connect with it, that was all, you know. So I understand why it was a big franchise. But a lot of reviewers have said the same thing, you know. It's like they've played through the game and they got some enjoyment out of it, but they never felt connected to the character. They didn't feel, you know, blah, blah, blah. So this particular version of God of War is... it's set in the Nordic world as opposed to the Greek mythology world. So it's a whole new set of gods, a whole new set of enemies, a whole new set of everything. And they've decided to make it, again, in a more... It's not an open world game, but it is slightly more open. It is more... Imagine maybe that world with The Last of Us type thing going on. I think that's what they've done. And they've said that it's all filmed in one sort of scene, so there's no loading screens. Everything's done in motion. You know, you'll get a cut scene, but it's in and out. You know, there's no loading screens. There's no waiting for anything. You know, you'll get a cut scene in game, and then you'll start flowing almost immediately. It's all done in one show. So, and the fighting looks amazing. Like, if you watch the way the guy's fighting, it's just the way he's throwing his axe and it's spinning back and hitting enemies, and then he throws it up at a thing that pulls fire down onto the floor and kills another enemy. He's got the kid helping him in the side. I mean, again, the combination of those two characters, the kid isn't a big character, but he's a character that can pull an enemy away from you, or, you know, almost like Joel and Ellie in their situation in The Last of Us. So you can get where they've got the idea from. So it looks spectacular, it looks stunning. I love the fact that the voice of the main character is now the guy that was Teal'c in Stargate on the TV, not on the film. Teal'c on the Stargate. What was it called? Stargate. It wasn't just called Stargate, was it? Stargate something. And yeah, so I love the fact it's his voice because I always loved him as Teal'c. And the lad, don't know who that is, but he's got this sort of companion to walk around with, so you're not just on your own. I kind of love it when they put a vibe like that in, because the minute you put a relationship in something, then you kind of end up being more connected, I think, to those people and their relationship, and there's bound to bring emotion with that. And he keeps calling him father through it, so it must be his son to some extent, or he's adopted him or something. So absolutely stoked for that. And that is the game where they've said early 2018. So we are going to get that, I would have thought, before maybe, well, certainly before June, hopefully before Easter. Early 2018 is it's still a bit of a wide gap, but you would got to expect it's going to be a sort of March game, so let's hope, fingers crossed, at the latest. We do get big releases sometimes in February, so you never know. I mean, usually they give a time frame like that. It's like, we're nearly there. We think we're there, but we just want some more time to test it. So we shall see what happens. And where are we, people? So the samurai game, by the way, and I don't know if I said it, is called Ghost of Tsushima. I'm pretty sure I just said samurai game. I don't know if I actually said Ghost of Tsushima, but that's what it's called. And the game that I'd forgotten about was Shadow of Colossus, which is a proper remake. And I will try and get some footage of it to show behind, because they did show some up. There is, it looked spectacular, and there was kind of a big, when we saw it at E3, it was kind of like, oh wow, they've actually, because they did do well, not a remaster, but a kind of, well, maybe it was a remaster. Anyway, you can get Shadow of Colossus on the PS4 already in its original form, but kind of tweaked and made better. So it was quite, nobody knew that game was getting a proper redo, like a proper rewrite. So it looks stunning, like, I don't know. I mean, in this particular clip, you see he's riding, he's running along. It looks really open, and he calls the horse over and starts riding along on the horse, and then starts chasing this massive creature, to the point where he's running alongside it, and then leaps off the horse and catches on and starts climbing up. I mean, it looked great, it looks absolutely fantastic. Now, I'm only not getting too excited about it because I know Shadow of Colossus was a massive game in its day. I didn't quite get any, I mean, I didn't play it in its day. I didn't get any sort of massive emotional connection to it when I played it, because I did play it on the PS4 just to see what it was like. So I'm hoping maybe this remake might build me interest, but it's certainly not something I'd get at launch. I've kind of got the same vibe about it as I have with the, I'm forgetting the name of it now, the other one where you've got the last, whatever it was called, The Last Guardian. I've got the same vibe about this as I have about that. It looks like it could be amazing, and then not sure. But, going by that clip, they've certainly gone all out and made it look really fantastic. If you're into that sort of thing, climbing on massive creatures and smashing them with your sword, then all the better. I don't know what the outcome of Colossus was meant to be. I don't know what the story was or anything like that, so maybe there's something I'm missing. I know the one that came before it, was it called Eco or something like that? I think there was 2 of them in that, wasn't there? And I think Shadow of Colossus was then the follow-up to it or something like that. But I don't know what the whole story thing going on there was at all. It was all kind of well out of my scope at the time that they came out. But anyway, there it was, and it looked fantastic again. But as I say, probably not something I'm going to get at launch. And finally, people, the one I'm most excited about, The Last of Us Part 2. Now, I think a lot of people were watching this clip when it came up, because it didn't say what it was when the clip started. And a lot of people were watching it, and I think they thought they were watching Days Gone. And it turned out, because the people in the clip were not people we've seen in The Last of Us 2 before. In The Last of Us before. So it was immediately like, well, who the hell are these people? It can't be anything with, But I think the music gave it away a little bit for me. But it was hard to tell because my son had already preempted, because I saw it after the event. My son had already said to me, like, we didn't know it was Last of Us. So when I saw it, it was like, this must be it. But I did feel like the music would have twigged me to it anyway. And the only reason you knew it was The Last of Us Part 2 was right at the very end of the clip. I won't say, because you'll see it in a minute. But the characters, you just see this woman getting dragged along, and quite clearly some really bad person sort of trying to do her in a very nasty way. I mean, this was a brutal scene, people, It's like they've clearly dragged this woman from somewhere, and she's clearly not a well, she seems to be the more of the protagonist, and the people dragging her seem to be the bad ones. And they've sort of got all these people strung up by the neck, and she's going to be the next, and just another mad dictator of a small village. And then it all kicks off, and this other sort of Oriental woman appears, and then anyway, you'll see behind me. But it was just like, who are these people? But the rumor is that the woman that was being strung up is Ellie's mum, is the biggest rumour that's kicking around. Now, this could be complete and utter tosh, but that's the rumour that was flying around, that it might be Ellie's mum, and we're seeing a bit of a flashback as to what happened to her mum. So, because the whole journey of The Last of Us Part 2 is a revenge journey. So, she has to be hunting for revenge for a reason, and you can only assume that reason has got to do with her mum, because that's the only person, other than the girl that she fell in love with in the first one, it's the only reason she would have for revenge. And she already knows how the other person died, and that was how it was. So, I'd be interested to see how that pans out. My concern with it was that I don't want to play as anybody other than Joel and Ellie. So I don't want them to introduce characters that I'm going to be running around playing as, because I really only want to play as one of those two people. And we know already, I'm pretty sure we do, that this is Ellie's story, not Joel's. So we are going to be playing as Ellie in this game, and we might get some side stuff as Joel. So it's kind of a flip to the first one. And that for me is perfect. We've done it as Joel. Let's do it as Ellie, because the bits she got to do as Ellie in the first one were brilliant. So well done. She was an awesome character. She was really kick-ass. And, it felt real when they did it as well. She didn't just become this uber person, she felt scared and underpowered in every situation, and you just had to work through it. So I'm uber stoked for that game. Sadly, I don't think we're going to see The Last of Us Part 2 until the dawn of PS5, and that could be a couple of years away yet. I don't think we're going to see that game for another couple of years. But, my theory on that is that The Last of Us was the last big title to come out of PS3, and then it was remastered for PS4. I know how much work Naughty Dog put into their games. We can all see that. We all know that they don't rush, they take the time. Sony always give them the time to do what they need to do. They never rush them. And they will make damn sure that the follow-up to that game is as perfect as it can be, because they know what the fan base of that game is like. So, but that's, I say sadly, it's only because I'm excited. There's no other reason. I'd rather it came in 2 years and be awesome than comes in a year and it's just not as good as I wanted it to be. So, hats off to them. Take the time. I'd be interested to see some of this story, to be fair. I mean, we do kind of want to know what happened to her mum and all this sort of stuff. There's a lot of backstory with Ellie that we don't know. We know what happened with Joel. Mainly, we don't know a lot. Well, we know what happened because we played him before all the hell broke loose with the viruses and stuff. But we still have a massive dark spot as to what happened to Joel in that period between when the daughter dies and when, at the outbreak, and what happens before he meets Ellie. There's a huge missing gap there, because there's a huge space of time, is it not? I think it's 20 years later or something, isn't it? Something like that. So we don't know what happened in those 20 years, other than he did some really bad stuff. And it's talked about. They are not good people. They've done horrible things in order to survive. So, there is a massive excuse for some DLC there, without any doubt, because that's some mad, angry action you could put a DLC together for in The Last of Us Part 2 without any doubt. And I would put massive money on them doing that, because we kind of got The Last of Us DLC, the first Last of Us, the DLC was about Ellie and what happened to her before that point. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if the DLC for The Last of Us Part 2 was about what happened to Joel before that point. But there's a massive likelihood that they could, if that is her mother and if that's where we're going, it could be that you play as her mum. But that character looks ripped. I mean, that is a ripped woman. If you look at her arms and everything, proper muscle. Like, That is one woman I would not mess with. But then I don't mess with many women. They all scare me, people. So there you are. I think this has rambled on for quite a lot longer than normal. But that was it, people. And to be fair, I only saw what happened at the PlayStation 1, and it was after the event. It was only because my sons sort of mentioned it was on, and I went to look for it. I did look for what was going on with Xbox, but basically it was all about the Scorpio, the upgrades for the 4K. There are some games coming, but nothing that's kind of stoking my fire at this point. So there you are. I hope, ladies. I've been talking for ages. Cool, blimey. Excuse me to lift this flagon of ale once more, people. I mean, it's practically warm. It's not actually. It's quite cold. I'm sure it's going to be very nice. Good grief. And look at the timer. About 45 minutes, people. I'll be rambling on. You put me in charge. Yes, there you are. So that was Paris Game Week for PlayStation. Obviously, there was all the stuff they did at the panel beforehand, but you know, that's sort of, I'm more interested in this vlog is about the AAA stuff. So there you are. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope it's been of use to people that don't kind of sit and wait for these things to happen, and you can just catch up with them. With people like me, it has, people, been an honour and a privilege, as always, doing this vlog for you, and I shall see you all next time. Take it easy, folks. Bye.